So give us a moment here. By the way, welcome to the show. It's a little bit slow tonight, but I don't think that's any fault of mine. Okay, great. We are live, but let me, before we get started, hold on, folks. Let me just notify the audience members on Facebook, because a lot of people have been wanting to come on here, and I haven't figured out a way to link up the Zoom software so the live streams get notified here on YouTube, which is unfortunate, but we're going to make do what we got here. And so welcome to the show. I'm James Rink. And let's see, we have any, so we have a few people show up. Welcome, Hendrix is in here. Welcome, Chase. All right, so today is July 9th, 2020. For those people in the future who are listening to this, we have Teah today, who will be talking more about some of her 20-year and back missions. She thinks she's been at least 175 years, probably more. She refers to these 20-year and back missions as splices. She has also been stationed off-world as an American asset in the secret space program. And she's also got this jungle world that she's been on. So I'm going to be really curious to learn more about that. So today she'll be speaking more about her training, missions, experiences, much more. And I'm actually going to go ahead and unmute you, Teah. I know you get, oh wait, come on. It's not letting me unmute. There it goes.
It asked me to confirm it, so hi.
Oh, okay. Welcome. So I got more. Yeah, I got more here in the bio. So just shout at me
Okay.
if I don't read this thing right. But anyway. Okay, so it says Teah struggled here with all her life with deep anger, rage, and resentment since a child, and I'm sure that's probably tied into a lot of the programming, trauma, and torture. Yeah, because they like to break us down, and then I guess the goal is to build us up the way they want. But a lot of times we just become basket cases for the weak-minded ones, but the strong-minded ones, we end up surviving and becoming super soldiers or whatnot. But anyway, I'm sure she'll explain more about that. So she spent her life dedicated to healing and every aspect of her being, emotional, physical, and mental. And she's actually she's has some great videos on the internet, and I'll put the link on there with where she shares some of her experiences. And her friend, business partner, and husband of 18 years is also in that video. Is he in the secret space program too?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Because he doesn't ever talk about that. Yeah, it'd be curious.
Well, actually, this Sunday I'm going to be posting his disclosure. He hasn't been sure about when to do that, and actually, our last video we talked real briefly about it. But that is actually why I invited him to be on the vlog, is because he was in it as well. And you said you remembered him.
I do. Do I remember your husband? No, I'm sorry. I don't. Maybe I need to get a regression session, but we'll talk about that in just a bit. Okay. So, all right. So David is your husband's name, and they together you help clients improve their health through incredible Chinese herbal medicine. And so you also have a dog, a pit bull. Okay. And so you stay creatively inclined. So you got your musician, all sorts of, and then you also do a martial arts inside, and you got a handgun, rifle. Okay, great. So going back into your SSP experiences, so you, I guess, according to this bio that you wrote up here, you started recovering your memories in 2017, and
actively. So I remembered my whole life, through dreaming, lots of memories through dreaming. So.
All right, we'll go into that in just a bit, but through her intense efforts of healing, the remembering process has been amplified to the point where she has been inundated. Am I saying that right?
Inundated
with memories every day and night. I know I'm going to get this eventually. Okay, though through the courageous, that's why I took her off mute. Courageous active exploration of her memories through meditation, journaling, drawing, discussion, writing. Okay, so that's how and you actually got some drawings you're going to show us tonight. So I'll be bringing that up soon. So through the three main veins of service in the breakaway civilization, you were basically American asset who served with the NAZIs alongside the American MIC. So, and we're going to go into that a little bit about how you helped broker a deal that allowed the Americans to join in with certain aspects of the space NAZIs. And so you've been your abilities in the SSP, and probably still are in tune with them. Telepathy, empath, super soldier, spy, experimentee, torturee, doll, which goes into the sex programming, the a terraformer, exterminator. What's that?
Right. On Mars, I was on early Mars when I was an NAZI, space NAZI, and I remember killing bugs and doing terraforming and things like that. And I do believe that was like in the early 1800s when they were there on Mars. Yeah.
Okay, but what and the terraformer? What's that?
Just, you know, back then, you had to wear a helmet. You could actually breathe on Mars, but I remember wearing a helmet. And since, like, you know, in the 1960s, when I was an American asset on Mars, you know, there's no problem breathing on Mars whatsoever. But I remember back then needing to wear a helmet. So I went through processes.
Back then, as in the 1850s?
Well, actually, that particular time, I think it was like the early 1900s, but I have lots of memories of being on Mars very early as a NAZI. So
how do you explain
killing
that?
spiders.
I thought the Germans didn't get to Mars till around 1921, 1933, somewhere around there.
So when I was an American, so I have a lot of memories. Okay, so when I was an American on Mars, I remember I was taken there in 1958, and the base actually was in part NAZI American, and we had some of the Martian slaves do the cleaning and hair cutting and things like that on the base. And there was a gentleman who had a really intense impact for me. He was the hair cutter stylist. And I mean, he didn't do anything. He just literally like would cut your hair. And I remember his history. And so he told me that they came to Mars in 1850, and his children were 7th generation Martians. And they were starving and all of this stuff. And I actually tell that story on my blog. They pay him with peanuts, and I flipped out. It was one of the earliest memories I have of actually being on Mars. And so then that's when he explained to me that they were starving and he needed those peanuts. And so anyways, it's just, if you want to get into that, you should go to my blog. But so I remember that they were there actually in the early to mid 1800s. And I do talk a bit about this in Mars, about some of the experiments that they did with using, you know, shields or bubbles. I don't know, but I know that they did a lot of work on Mars trying to make it work. And I remember buildings and being lost on Mars, and they're all primarily underground now, but I have all sorts of stuff going on there. So, yeah.
Well, this actually, now I got a lot of questions. So I could keep reading your bio, or we could, how about we just tap and touch this a little bit more, because I thought Germans to get there to 1920. So how do you explain this? Did they actually get there before then, or was there time travel tech involved?
Oh, time travel tech is involved. Yeah, without a doubt. And so I don't know when they left Earth, right, which would be like our time frame, but I do know that they went back into the past. So I mean, I have memories of being on Titan around Saturn in like the 1920s. And so I do know that when they continue to colonize, they do keep going back into the past. So their civilization's been around for a really long time, even though, you know.
I'm going to share this. So this is an article I posted on Super Soldier Talk back in December. And so there were these sightings of these airships over the U.S. And this one's in California in 1896. And people were recalling that they were hearing music being played, and it looked like there were people aboard on there, and they were partying and having a good time. So is this connected to the German secret space program, or is this something totally different?
Could be. I mean, who knows, you know, but could be, sure. I mean, I have memories of them manipulating humanity's timeline forever. Um, and that's actually, I make some big claims on my blog, but you know, the ancient builder race that's talked about, you know, and they're always looking for this ancient builder race tech and all that. I remember being on one of their cruisers and actually attacking the ancient builder race. Sorry, I kind of pulled that out. So I don't even know what time frame that was, but they've been manipulating life here for a very long time. So yeah.
Okay, so I've got a comment here. Sonora Aero Club in the U.S. Navy was working with an electric airship in 1862. They hid their program in Louisiana and turned it over to Solar Warden. So during 1862 to 1947, with these secret societies, I guess the German Templars were involved.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is
Mhm.
opening up a huge mystery. You know, there's almost no information about this on the internet.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, but why
Mhm.
don't you tell us about what life? So did you actually get sent? So you were sent back in time to the early colonies when it first to the 1850s, roughly 60s.
So, okay, the best that I have it at this point is, like I was telling you real briefly before the meeting, is that I think that my family was actually part of the brain drain in like the early 1980s, and I have memories of my grandfather and my father and my brothers and I all part of the breakaway civilization. And I think that I was used at that point in time, like I've been used here as an American, where they used me in their military and they would blink me, you know, they would erase my memory and go back and forth on all this stuff. So that's where I think all of that early Martian stuff comes from. Um, and did that answer your question? What was your question?
Well, I wanted to know if you were back and then that you were sent back
Mhm.
from the 1980s back to the 1850s, and there you were with the early settlers.
Sure, you could sort of say that. I
Okay.
honestly, I think I went to like Centurion. Okay, that's what I remember their main planet was, because I have a lot of weird memories there with my family. And then from there was probably taken to Mars at some point, but I've been moved throughout time a lot. So
Okay, well, why don't you tell us a little bit what life was like back in the 1850s on Mars? So the atmosphere was not breathable very much.
actually you could. And I remember like the base door would open up to the outdoors, and so you know air would circulate from the outdoors to the indoors. But that if I was going to go do work outside, I would put on my helmet. Um, and so, and I wore this really kind of really flexible orange suit. And my helmet would actually attach to the suit. And so, but yeah, the air was breathable, but it wasn't ideal. So I would have to wear the helmet. And I remember flying a spaceship and killing spiders. And um, so, anyways, go
Okay,
on.
well, two things I want to mention here. First thing is more just a comment. Nikola
Mhm.
Tesla claimed that he was speaking to aliens on Mars, and
Mhm.
maybe, and I'm not sure what the timeline of that was. Maybe
Yeah.
early 1910s.
All
So
right.
that was probably maybe it was this faction.
Sure.
Additionally, why don't you, in one of your videos you talked about some of the ancient old colonies, the early settlements on Mars were on the surface,
Mhm.
and apparently those are all abandoned now, or maybe not all of them, but some of them are.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so I have remembered buildings on the surface of Mars, like even like suburbs, like this weird bank or court, um, where we were. See, the American military on Mars, we were sort of used like a space SWAT, if you want to call it that, and we would do odd jobs, and we would get paid almost first like an aid car, like a paramedic does per job kind of thing. And so we got all the crap jobs, and I remember like trying to exterminate this like gargoyle thing on the surface of Mars. So the air is breathable. It was in the 1960s, late 1950s. I believe that the Americans have been on Mars since the early 1940s. And I could go into why I believe that, but um, lots of time to travel crap. So, but yeah, but back then in the early 1800s, um, I do remember that they were using the technology, you know, to create like the shields, the force field shields. But I believe the best I've remembered at this point is that their main problem was controlling the temperature. I think that they thought that they were going to be able to grow food and stuff like that, and they couldn't actually make crops grow. But I remember that they have these kind of like sandstone buildings. And when I was there, like in the 60s or 70s, like I actually got lost in the desert, and that was a real strong memory for me. But they look like kind of like the Indian Aztec buildings, you know, like desert buildings, like little houses. And they still have stuff in them, you know. And I remember I was looking for cans of food to eat. So I mean that's just another side note, but there are roads and stuff on Mars. So yeah.
All
So
right.
there's
Well, why don't you comment about why the crops? You said temperature, so I'm assuming it got too
yeah,
cold at night and they froze.
right.
So
Yeah, and I think that they thought that they could somehow control the temperature in the bubble. I mean, this is like real like F quality kind of memory
like
stuff.
under a greenhouse.
Yeah, I think they thought they could create a greenhouse, but that Mars is just so cold, and actually the temperature coming from the planet into the bubble was just too much. I think it was too extreme. So
What about in the tropical regions?
I don't have any memories of that.
Hmm.
Tropical
Yeah.
regions.
So apparently in the tropical regions on Mars, there's a lot of electrical storms. So all
Mm.
their electrical
Oh.
equipment would get fried. So that's why they
Mm-hmm.
decided not to
Hmm.
colonize that area.
Yeah.
But
I do remember like stuff like some electrical storm stuff. I do remember that, and that we would have to fly like around them. And so because I remember like certain like with the American base on Mars, I remember they kept like the nuclear weapons like at another site, and that sometimes it was a real short drive there for like 15 or 20 minutes, and sometimes it was an hour. And I think it had to do with the route we had to take to go around the storms and stuff like that.
oh,
So
okay. All right.
yeah. Well,
Well, can you tell us a little bit more about the life in that early era? So the colonists, they were living on the surface with a helmet all the time, or were they breathing in the air?
I was not a colonist in that way, so I don't know a lot about that. But from what I do remember about their history, that they were able to essentially make a livable environment. So they weren't wearing helmets because they had the force field bubbles, but their problem ended up being just how cold it was. So
What about the spiders or the giant insects, any
oh, so
predators getting into camp?
so for me, all the spider stuff I think was around 1910. And yeah, I remember the spiders. I remember like the females were really huge, like 20 feet tall, and you had to get them in their armpit to kill them. And I remember the males were a lot smaller. They were like 3 or 4 feet. And just carrying around this kind of bazooka, which I think was some sort of like an energy bazooka because it was really light. And I had a spaceship, so I remember riding around Mars in my spaceship. And I remember the suit that I wore, which was I only needed about 100 calories a day to eat. And I remember I had coffee every day. I remember my room and having to use the powder to get hair off your body because everybody on Mars is hairless that's using these suits. So in early times, that's something that you had to do. But the suit,
What they shave the hair off, or the hair falls off because of
just
the
that
climate?
no, it's a powder. No, it's a powder to remove your hair because you need the suit to have direct contact with your skin so that you can eat so little. So I remember like eating these little like fruit nut bars, like were about 100 calories, and that the suit actually enabled you, like you wouldn't have to eat for like 6 weeks. But for me, I thought I noticed my energy was the best when I would eat 100 calories a day. So I would have like a little nut bar, fruit nut bar thing, and a cup of coffee every day. And I remember they tried pairing me up with this guy because, you know, they have like arranged marriages, and remember how they would interrogate me. So that's that kind of stuff, all that stuff. I remember when they time traveled their dark fleet, you know, as it's called, spaceships. And you know, one thing that I mentioned in like my vlog is, you know, they talk about the you know, submarine hot dog shaped spaceships, and they went from that, and then they portaled their dark fleet to our timeline at that time frame. So there wasn't like this organic transition from when they went to the dark fleet.
So probably more so maybe not looking so much like a blimp here,
Yeah,
but
they're more like a submarine.
here's one. It's kind of acornish like.
Yeah,
Okay. And these are this is William
yeah,
Tompkins.
yeah.
He
That.
described it. I think this is probably more Dark Fleet. Oh
Yeah.
no, actually, this was Solar Warden, if I'm
Mm.
not mistaken. And
Mhm.
they also had the submarine. Yeah, the that would be. This says U.S. Navy on there.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay. Here's some more. Oh, look, this
Yeah.
and this. The
Mhm.
USS Hill and Toker.
Mm.
This is Corey. Yeah, I
Mm.
like to mention his name here, but
Mhm.
yes, yes. So
Mhm.
Solar Warden, you can see how big it is, 991 feet.
Mhm.
Now Solar Warden was not as advanced as some of these other groups. So
Mhm.
but I did want to show this. Was this what the smart suit looked like?
Well, when I was a NAZI, it was orange. When I wore a black suit when I was an American. And mine was um, my suit was it was like a gold, and it actually had like a gold wire through it um, back when I was
That almost sounds like Kruger. And
when I
this may have a little bit of gold wire in it, but okay. All right, I just wanted to share that. Okay,
mhm,
so let's go
mhm,
back to, there was a little bit left here in your bio.
mhm,
I'll just go one more sentence here too, and then we can start getting into questioning. Well, I guess we
mhm.
already done that, but
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
you've already also done interrogation, high
Mhm,
level bodyguard service for the
yeah.
space NAZI's royalty, high
Mhm,
technology interfacer, alien
mhm,
communicator, dealer, pilot,
mhm,
and much more.
mhm.
So yeah, so you're starting to get your memories back here, and putting these pieces together. And
Yeah,
all right. Oh, and you also have a book which is on Amazon for pre-order. So we'll be sure to
yeah,
show the link for that. So
yeah.
um, how about we go back before we start getting more into your experiences? Why don't you tell us
Mhm.
how you first became aware you were in the secret space program?
Um, well, I've had weird memories since I was a kid, and I've had this one memory that where I was actually at school in elementary school, where I remember a soldier running on the wall, and so I've had these things stick with me. But I don't know. At some point in 2017, I was kind of having a little bit of a personal crisis. Just having some problems, and I realized that something was just wrong. Something was wrong, and I had to figure out what it was. That I had been trying to live my life right for so long, and I just didn't. Something wasn't adding up, and that's when I started, you know, kind of diving into some other spiritual ideas. And I share on my vlog, like I'm an ex-Mormon. I was raised a Mormon. And around that time frame, I was breaking away from the church again, which I've done like 3 different times in my life. Um, and I started diving into other spiritual concepts, and that's when I started putting the pieces together. And it was really kind of like this slow morph. It was over the course of about 6 months. had heard a little bit about the secret space program and had wondered if it was real. And then I started going back to some of these weird things that had been in my head and started realizing that they weren't just my imagination, that they were actually memories. And so it was like, really, it was July 2017 that I knew I had been in the secret space program. So, and since then, I've been really working my butt off to try and recover as much as I can. So.
All right, excellent. And so I guess you've always had an awareness that things were different in your life. And was there somebody, maybe a video on YouTube that helped trigger you as well? And then you realized that this was all real?
Well, like I said, I've had memories. I've even had memories of like talking to aliens, and I didn't know what it was. Like I was used at once, expanding your horizons. It was supposedly this all girls career kind of day thing when I was like 15, and I remember talking to an alien at that. And I just never understood that it was a real thing. So, so when I had heard about the secret space program, I don't know, through, because I was always like trying to understand why I was so angry all the time, and why that no matter what I do, I seem to always have anger. And so when I had heard about the secret space program, I said, I wonder if that's real. And then I started realizing, like, okay, I have all these weird memories of aliens. I have weird memories of being portaled in my like elementary school gymnasium. I remember being weird stuff during music class. I remember talking to an eel man when I was like 7 years old. Just weird stuff like that. I remember talking to a minotaur when I was like 7 years old, and that was like in a, I believe that was, I was taken at some point when I was 7. I believe from elementary school to an underground military base where there's all sorts of weird stuff. I remember with astronauts, them mating them with like these alien women, which I believe I Dream of Jeannie, by the way, is like disclosure of that. And talking to a minotaur man and all sorts of like weird stuff with that. So, you know, it's really confusing actually. And so anyways, yeah.
All right. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Okay. So, how about we go maybe into your maybe your first 20-year back mission, I guess. I guess you call it splice.
Yeah.
So how did it actually begin? I'm assuming they pulled you outside of time. At what point in your life did they first take you?
As an American?
Mhm.
Well, I believe, like, actually what I was just saying, when I was 7, I think that they took me in the early 50s in this weird underground base and did a lot of stuff to me.
So they would have used time travel to pull you back in time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
But actually I have a lot of weird memories of being like the Endicott period forts too, and actually fighting in like World War II as an American, I believe, and maybe even World War One. I don't know. There's some weird stuff there. So, but the big splice for me was when I was on Mars. And see, I don't know if you saw the video, but I had a memory recently where I'm teaching deaf and dumb children. And I believe that was an exercise to develop telepathy, at least in me, and if not the kids as well. And I think that was probably also from that era when I was about 7. I think that they've been messing with my age a lot. But and I believe that all of that was preparation to try and get to Mars. And so, and then I believe when I was 15, I was taken to Mars. And that's when I have that really big chunk of being on Mars as an American. And even on Mars, I was taken by the NAZI about once a week. So the first, if you were to really say the first as an American, I believe it's when I was 7.
so as a child, you're on Mars, and did they embed you in a family, or are you in the academy?
Well, when I was 7, I remember being escorted a lot just by military people, military personnel. So there was no family there.
They kept you in underground base mostly, or on
Yeah,
bunker?
I think that was probably on Earth, the underground base. Yeah, and they had all sorts of aliens in this prison. I think it was a prison essentially. They had all sorts of aliens.
And were you subjugated to any kind of training programming experiences?
Um, there's a lot of weird stuff around that age frame where I remember being programmed through like a lot of Disney movies, I think. Um, and like even Mr. Ed and the Partridge Family, weird stuff like that. And so that stuff is all pretty faint, but it's there. Roadrunner, there was weird stuff with Roadrunner. I don't know. But I do remember them doing a lot of different creative programs, and I remember them actually asking us to make up stories, and then I would see cartoons made out of those stories. So I don't know how relevant that is.
Okay.
Kind of probing into some weird stuff here.
Yeah. So moving into the timeline, later on in your life,
Mhm.
you're still, I guess you're still on Mars during this period. And what was your role or duty or task? What did they want from you?
Well, when I was a kid, they wanted me to talk to aliens. Yeah, I talked to the Minotaurs and um, that stuff. Yeah, I remember talking to an eel man, like I said, talking to some weird kind of gray-looking thing. So that was my primary thing was more to get information out of these people. And I know
Oh,
that that sounds kind of crazy as a little girl to be doing this, but I mean, I have a real distinct memory of this eel man who came up from the surface. And so there are amphibious civilizations in the earth, and they are very advanced. And I do recall a civilization who they claim to be the original evolved species here on Earth, and they're like 3 billion years old. But that this eel man actually was in a spaceship, he got shot down. So when they're doing the shooting down stuff, um, you know, I would get pulled in. I remember Florence, who I talked to when I believe when I was 15, and she was like a tall gray alien, but she was shot down as well. Um, so so I was used in that way, basically to just get information from these people, and just learn more about them, who they were, why they were here. And most of these people, they're just trying to go about their lives, you know. But
these extraterrestrials.
or
Hmm.
terrestrials, just aliens.
Hmm.
You know,
All
they're
right.
different from us, but some, I
And
mean,
what?
some actually live here. You know,
And so, what are their impressions about humanity in general? What do they think of humans?
oh, they like to steer clear of us all the way. Yeah. Actually, it's funny. I do remember, like most aliens, aliens, they generally tend to be pretty decent people. It's it's the Orion Syndicate that we're actually kind of a part of here. That's terrorizes the universe. So,
Hmm.
anyways.
All right. So going on into your 20-year and back, I'm assuming 20 years and back in that particular
Mhm.
experience. So
Sure,
as
sure.
an adult, you continue doing the same thing, interacting with the ETs.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
As an adult, well, when I was on Mars, the primary objective with that was actually to hold on to the base. And I do recall that they had intel through time travel tech, because I know the Americans did actually have the ability to portal, I believe, um, since the 1940s. Yeah. Um, that
Is this
that
it?
yeah, that's it. That they had the intel that we would lose the base by like 1970. And so when I was taken there in 1958, I took the place of they had another empath there, a gentleman, or a man, and his brain was totally fried. And I do remember that from all of the work that he had done. And so my job was to be the alien communicator, and there are all sorts of weird stuff going on Mars. But that base was originally inhabited by an eclectic group of refugees who were aliens. And because Mars is just like Earth, where like every piece of land is in use by somebody, it's owned by somebody. And so for the Americans to get a base on Mars, we had to take it over. And I remember when I was 15 being portaled from high school to the event where we took over the base, where we took over this area. And we did it with the help of the NAZI. It's very unclear to me what the relationship was, but it was some sort of a partnership. And I have memories where basically I think the NAZI had us under their thumb. Like I think we didn't have a choice, and we had to get out in space. We had to get on some sort of semi-equal footing. We had to get on Mars, and so they used this really big energy weapon that, it's funny because in the memory that I have, I never looked at it, but yet I know what it looks like, which is really strange. And it was like Big Bertha. You can imagine Big Bertha, but like an energy weapon. And we were just shooting it at this thing. Basically just making these people surrender. And they weren't surrendering. But
This base
I was,
here,
yeah.
initially. Okay.
Yeah, so the Devil's Tower is used like a skyscraper. And but the base is actually underneath the Devil's Tower, and it goes all along inside the crater. And so there's actually rooms. So like, if you see over there on the far right, there's a little black square. That was my room, like just kind of behind the Devil's Tower. And I haven't been able to properly visualize how it all situated, how the external sat with the internal. And so I've been very confused about that, but my room actually was on the other side of the crater. And as I was drawing this, I was much better able to see how it all fit. So anyways, but yeah, the alien race or community that was there, they were very eclectic, and they were all people who didn't have homes, and they're shooting this energy weapon at the base, and there were about, I want to say 20 different telepaths there, and we were all grouping our consciousness together on a type of conference call. And that is something I remember. I have this real distinct memory on Titan when we learned that we could actually pool our consciousnesses together and get more done that way. And so in this particular case, the majority of the people that were there were actually NAZI or breakaway civilization telepaths. And I remember in Titan when we trained, there were 3 classes of telepaths, and I think this is very early on, by the way. But each class had about 30 children, and I was in the middle class, and there was an older one and a younger one, and maybe a quarter to a third of the children there were Americans, and so most of the telepaths, with the breakaway are NAZI breakaway. But there were about 20 of us there, and I remember there being about 5 Americans because we were all dressed in jeans and t-shirts. But the breakaway telepaths, they all had their uniforms on. And we go into this corral area where we're all supposed to be, and we're all directing our attention at the at the base. And, that's called a call, by the way. So that's one of the actual terms I have remembered. When you do a telepath connection, you just call it like a phone call. And so we're all on a conference call trying to get these people to talk back to us, and they weren't picking up. And so I do remember at that point that it was getting very intense, and that this energy weapon is very loud. And I remember it was so loud, it kept pulling me out of my trance that they induced in me. And at that point, I realized that they were going to try and kill the people inside the base. And that's when I asked, and I went up to this Nazi, I'm sorry, the NAZI, and I and I was very feisty a lot of times, and I said, I know you're going to try and kill these people. I said, let me try. And that's when I walked up to the ramp, and my handler's yelling at me, don't go inside. And I'm still in like part of a trance. So I hear him and I don't hear him. But anyways, I go up to the door and I just put my hand on the door and I'm just listening. And in this particular case, it's like more of an emotional intent. And so I wasn't actually talking, I was just listening. And that's when the door went from solid to unsolid, and I could walk through it, and where I had this telepathic communication with the head of these people. And he was a bug man. He was like a combination between seahorse and like a stick bug man, but yet he also had this strange like a beetle thing on top of his head, and he had a couple little antler things. And I need to draw him because he's really cool looking, but he had like this kind of seahorse mouth. And he when I was communicating with him, I thought his eyes were up here, because it's really important when you're doing the telepathic communications to look into the eyes. And so I'm looking up here at his antlers things. And then at that point, after the telepathic communication was over, he opens his eyes, and that's when I realized that he basically kind of like has 4 eyes, sort of. So but yeah, they did give up. They did give themselves up, and they went into these pods that floated, and it was like this weird parade of these people in these stasis pods, and they locked themselves in them.
Is that it right there?
No, that's just one of the American spaceships, which is more like a cargo ship, by the way. It doesn't look like much on the inside. But no, they had their own individual pods, these people, each person, and they could float. And that's when they came out of the door here. They just, they were floating behind me. And the NAZI was very happy with me, and I promised him someday that I would get him.
Yeah, if they went in there by force and exterminated them, that would have been not only like horrific karma later on down the road. Be almost assured that base would be attacked again and again and again until the whole thing's just annihilated.
Right.
But you said that the original occupants left. Where are they going to go to? I mean, wasn't that their home?
Well, they're in captivity, so they surrendered themselves in these pods. And I remember like hoping that those pods could not be unlocked, so that in the very least they're in captivity, but they're being preserved. But I don't know what happened to them. But they went into the hands of the Americans and the NAZI. So they're somewhere. I don't know. They're somewhere.
How many occupants were originally in this facility, base?
I got the impression maybe a couple thousand. It wasn't very big. But yeah.
All right. So the Americans get a hold of the base. Did you get to go walk around the inside and see what? Oh, you used to live there.
Yeah, I used to live there, and so somewhere around that time. See, I think that event happened in the early 1940s. But then I was taken there in 1958, and I've remembered a lot what it looks like on the inside. And I did two drawings. They're not the greatest drawings. I have one that's a map, and one I kind of tried to make sort of like a diorama, but
you want me to pull one of the.
Yeah, if you want, there's a shuttle bay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is the inside that same base.
Yeah. And so like there's a main city center, which is where those palm trees are, and I have on their food printer. But it's a big hole in the ground, And you have, of course, tunnels and rooms off of the hull. And so this place was like a 2-story, and on the lower story, like I say, you had the debriefing room, you had a bar, you had right next to the bar is actually a hallway where there would be shooting range, female quarters. There was an appearance printer. Even back then. What was that?
What is an appearance printer?
You stand on it and it puts clothes on you and can even do your makeup and hair. And so they had that even back then. And you can
in the
use
1940s.
Well, they had in 1958. I don't know how long. I have not remembered how long that tech had been there, but the NAZI had all sorts of crazy crap, even in the early 1900s, and so I do believe that was something that was inherited from them, possibly, or maybe it was part of the original deal that they made with them. But yeah, but you can make disguises out of it, and look like somebody completely different. But obviously, it's just sort of like a prosthetic type of thing. But
I want to get this clear. So this is actually an American facility that the Germans were working joint venture with the Americans to help capture.
Yes.
And does that mean the Germans are also using this facility as well?
I remember a strong German NAZI presence there. But I believe that this was our own little cranny. The main NAZI base was, because there's so many tunnels underground, that it actually did connect to their main base. But this was our own little neck of the woods. And see, the thing is there's corporate offices there. And that was actually in the tower. Yeah.
And
tower.
So there's the corporate offices.
Yeah. So because it's 3D on a 2-dimensional surface here, but outside of our main kind of city center, there was a corridor, and of course it's all rock, right? But there were corporate offices there on one wall, and then that big area there was the shuttle bay. But yes, but above us were the corporate offices, and so yeah, here's another drawing of it. It's a little bit better.
So is this like a walkway on the second floor? They could.
Yeah. There was a walkway, metal walkway all along the second floor.
Was that something they built into it?
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I mean, I don't really know what was original. From the.
How old do you think the original facility is?
Oh, it's super old. I mean, I think I know that there's actually like original Martians that still live on Mars that hide underground. And I remember that they've been pushed. What I remember about them was that they've been pushed basically into like the radioactive area, and that they get these weird burns on their body. So anyways, yeah, access to the processes there.
They took all the best land, the SSP, and then kicked all the natives into the crap land.
Yeah.
Or like what the Americans did to the Native Americans. Oh. Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. And so we got over here closets.
Yeah.
Old room. Offices. The gym.
See, the old officers' quarters, that's actually where my room was. That's how I would access my room.
What, you were an officer in this organization?
No, when the NAZI, so I think that before I got there must have been a much stronger NAZI presence. And honestly, I think they probably gave it up to the Americans because they knew that this particular area was not going to be secure. So I think it was kind of a backhanded way of them giving us our own land, but they knew through the time travel intel that eventually it was going to be
recaptured.
Recaptured, exactly. And so, but if you go through that door, that's where you had a bunch of nicer rooms that went around the crater, And a lot of the rooms have, windows to the crater because, everybody wants to look at the beauty of a crater. And but I mean, at least you had some access to the
Hmm.
outside, or a view to the outside, instead of feeling like totally caged in. But the thing was, so the NAZI used those areas as for their officers, but it's hella cold over there. And so when the Americans, when we were using them, we had basically like that area stayed uninhabited except for during the time frame during the summer. But I was there all the time, and they gave me that space because the rooms were larger. You actually had a real bed. There was actually like a little sitting area in my room. I had a window. But yeah, it would get just super duper cold. So
All right. Well, my next question would, did the Americans ever find out before, I guess you said the drop dead date of what in the 70s when the base would be supposed to be retaken, did the eventually find out and put a plan in place to prevent it from being recaptured?
yes, and so this is something that has recently come to me, but um, the original deal, whatever the Americans made with the NAZI, they they made a deal, I think, for land and for personnel. It was not, I believe that there wasn't actually money exchange. I mean, maybe there was, but it was tech, personnel, and land. And one of the deals is that there were a core group of the best American personnel that were basically rented off to the NAZI. It's like the NAZI could come and get us at any particular point in time. And I was out of that deal, but when we secured the base and we got past that date, the date of doom when we were supposed to lose the base, they made me a part of it. And so that's, I think, around the times of the late 60s or early 70s, I became a part of the deal where I was personnel who was approved to go with the NAZI and be used. And so around that time frame, about once every week, they would come get us. And there was anywhere from, I think, 5 to 10 people once a week who were on the roster, and they could possibly be used by the NAZI. And that was something that was very stressful. That everybody was very stressed out about that, all the soldiers.
So, okay, so you had this troop exchange program,
yeah.
personnel exchange, and how did that change the timelines to allow the Americans to keep the base?
Well, we were able to maintain the base, and because I was a part of that, and I think that I was the timeline change. That's why I suddenly became a valuable asset that they wanted to use. And so I had a lot of trauma from being, just abruptly taken to Mars. It took me a few years to get kind of over it and get into the groove. And that's where I started doing a lot of training. And I think at one point I even liked my job and I felt good about being able to secure the base on Mars. But then the deal changed, and I think it was something like where they negotiated like every 5 or 10 years, where I was added to that deal. They wanted to use me, and that's when that's when I started being taken by them.
We have a question from the chat. They want to know, Thomas would like to know, do you recall the Japanese, working with the Japanese on Mars?
I not on Mars. I have remembered them on like what I think is Titan. So, but it's like, it's not much.
Okay, we can talk about that later. We may have to just bring you back on another show because there's a lot more about this base I like. And, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again because another question from the chat was, what was the upholstery like in there? Was there carpet, or was it top?
Yeah. So that main area there, like, it's just like this gray slate. But in my room, I did have really ugly carpeting. So yeah, really ugly shag carpeting. But yeah, I mean, it's sandstone and metal, and the remember the barracks was largely metal for the guys' rooms, and my room too. Metal
And
walls.
did you see any kind of alien motifs, considering it was an extraterrestrial base?
No, I mean, it was a really boring military base. There was like nothing special about it.
Even like the prior occupants, they never put any of their own architectural flair. They just made it boring. That's it.
Yeah, I do have no memories of what it looked like immediately after they took it from the aliens.
Oh, so they might pour all the ET looking stuff out.
Yeah. If there were anything like that, it wasn't there when I was there. So.
Okay. And we see this area where there's trees in here. So was there like a glass dome allowing light to come in, or was this artificial lit?
It was artificial lit, and what's weird about it is I don't remember any actual official lights. So I think they did have some sort of tech that where there was light without, what we would know to be light.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Okay. All right. And so what about this brothel?
Yeah.
Do you happen to peek in there, or
Yeah, actually, I do have memories of what it looked like in there. So the brothel was largely a function of the corporate office, and so there's lots of weird stuff about the brothel, but I remember Marilyn Monroe actually being at the brothel, and a lot of famous actresses and musicians were, like, the brothel was like a training ground slash test, test zone to see if these people would do what the CABAL to see if they'll do what they want them to do.
Were they clones of the original on Earth, you think, or are they actual?
No, real people. Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these actors and actresses were participating in the 20-year and back programs.
Yeah. So what I remember, because I remember talking to Marilyn Monroe, and what's funny is I didn't realize it was her, and I don't know. It's a weird thing because it's like I didn't recognize her when I was first talking to her, but obviously you can see the brothels right next to the men's barracks. So some of the women would go into the men's barracks, and I encountered her when she was coming or going, and I was very angry. I mean, you have no idea how angry of a person I was when I was serving in this place. But I said, why do you do what you do? And she started explaining to me how all of the girls there are like runaways. And that they really considered this to be a good gig. And she started telling me how one of the women was even trying to get her sister up there. But I do remember that they would work there for a pretty short period of time, like somewhere around 18 to 24 months. And they would get paid $2 million to do it. And if they ended up being somebody who could play along, these people were promoted to fame, as some of the super soldiers were as well. And so that's where some of the stuff gets real weird. But yeah, I remember quite a few famous people who served in the brothel, or just people who were taken to Mars. And I think that Mars was used a lot to try and impress people and motivate people. So I remember tours being given with famous people, and all sorts of crazy stuff. So
the payment of the money. So was that when they got back to planet Earth?
Yeah, when they got back to Earth. And I do recall, by the way, that I mean, these guys are totally dishonest. So a lot of the women did not get paid what they were expected, or even if at all, that these people remain slaves. And so yeah, that's the kind of thing, is that a lot of these people think that they're going to get a good deal, but they get back to Earth, and they're more slaves than we are. Even though they may have money or possessions, these people tell them what to do. They don't have a choice. So.
Yeah. So I guess that applies even to you and I and the other SSP officers and so on. I guess the officers, they're more likely to get something when they return back the higher level you are. Certainly there, Thomas has talked about it. There were some I think some people like on Fox News who were actually upper level SSP, and they get to come back and have a cushy job, where the rest of us, I guess us whistleblowers, they don't really want to give us anything cushy, because we're
Well,
shit.
right, because they have the time travel tech, so they know really who will play ball and who won't. And a lot of the super soldiers, here's something else that I haven't actually talked on my vlog at all, but one of the things that we did on Mars is we played music, and there was a lot of original music written. And and see, that's one way that they can distinguish the super soldier intuitives, and I consider the super soldiers as intuitive people. It's a different kind of intuition than like the telepaths, but everybody had to have this psychic component on Mars, which is one reason why they just did this draft, because you can't just have anybody up there, because all of the tech, especially the tech that was inherited from the NAZI, all of it has a mental component. You have to be able to control it with your mind. I remember even like the like kind of air jet ski things, you had to be able to do that. But anyways, but we would throw parties up there and we would write music. And if you turned out to be a good musician, then they would offer a super soldier a deal and propel them up to fame. And those who wouldn't play the game, their music was stolen. And they put one of their showmen up there. And
Well,
so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I want to mention this. I don't know if it's even relevant, because I've been having reoccurring dreams of being in a barrack on Mars, and Justin Bieber's in there. So I'm not saying maybe he was or wasn't, but you're suggesting that there's a good probability, at least maybe Justin Bieber or some of these musicians probably were.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I've remembered several famous musicians who were super soldiers on Mars.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name names, at least not yet at this point in time. But yes, I remember, and I remember the game very well. But yes, you would be surprised.
Well, in that particular, I guess you call it dream or whatnot, the recurring dream, I was the whole group of us kids were about 14, and we had bunk beds, and Bieber was he always insisted I had the top bunk, and he was always kind of a dick. But then again, I guess we kind of all were people were kind of nasty to each other there. But anyway, I don't want to necessarily spend too much time on that, because I wanted you to let me bring up the let's share my screen again so we can look at this map. Now there's the shuttle bay. Did you spend any time on the shuttle bay?
Yeah, I remember the shuttle bay. I mean, there's some, to be honest, I don't remember the shuttles very well. I remember when I was really stressed out once, being given crap jobs, and I remember vacuuming like some of the shuttles. But
do you recall, like, most of the time spent in this base was just boredom, and they were just giving you busy work to keep your mind occupied, like maintenance?
For me, they kept me. It's like I was either like really needed or not needed at all, because of my job. So it's like when there was an alien and they wanted to whatever, it's like, okay, get Teah over here. But I remember, especially early on, doing kind of crappy things. I remember like going in ducks and stuff like that. So, but no, the teams up there, like, so we were to keep the base secure. We would do kind of these weird SWAT jobs on Mars, but we went to Earth all the time. And I remember like, so they always kept the super soldiers busy. I remember they did a lot of stuff like in Egypt, getting ancient Egypt, ancient builder race tech, and stuff like that. So
question from Thomas, do you remember hearing the original country version of Wicked Game on Mars?
I don't even know that song.
Okay.
Wicked Game original. I'm gonna have to look that up. Yeah. So
okay. All right. Well, so is there anything else? How about going into the modern era? Is this base still in the hands of the Americans, you think?
I believe so. Yeah. I remember So at some point my job changed, but I remember being there all the way up into sometime around 2000.
And oh, go ahead.
Oh, I don't know when my job changed, but I did go into a different team. But yeah, it's 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002. I don't know when exactly, but at some point, I was no longer stationed there. So.
Okay, so when you were stationed at this facility, did they tell the occupants that planet Earth was destroyed and that this was the last bit of humanity?
Oh yes, yeah. So what, like for instance, that base had like an energy power generator that was underground, and it was shared with some parts of Mars. You know, like it was a territory type of thing, and that was manned by this slave colony underground. And I remember the head gentleman who ran it. He did not like us, and I remember being told, because I was called in to see what I could do, because the generator started malfunctioning, and our power was hit and miss. And so I go to talk to him, and I was told, do not talk about Earth. Do not talk about Earth. Earth is dead. Don't say a damn word. You'll be in big trouble. And so yes, yeah, so and I also do have the memories of when I was an NAZI, of also longing for Earth and going, oh my gosh, Earth, what happened to Earth? Oh, I wish I could remember, and oh, someday we'll get back to Earth, you know, and being told over and over the Earth is dead. So
yeah, but being a telepath that you are, surely you would have been able to probe the mind of some of the upper officers who knew that you're all being told a bunch of lies.
The thing about me, James, is that I think I've caught on to a lot of different things, but I think I've been heavily watched and heavily manipulated. And so every time that I would catch on to anything, I think that they would erase my memory. Because I have all sorts of memories where I was fighting back with these people. Okay, I remember like trying to send a message to Earth from Centurion and all sorts of stuff like that. So but I mean they can really screw with your head, man. I mean they got it down. They do. So.
Wow. Okay. So that actually resonates with me, because that would make a lot of sense. As soon as you start recovering your memories of your life on planet Earth, they'll throw you back in the regen tank, I'm assuming, and or the trip seat.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, we had there was a comment from Thomas. He said the original Willie Nelson version of Wicked Game on Mars was a #1 hit on Mars in the 1970s. So
oh yeah,
I would play a clip of that right now, but YouTube is not very too friendly when you play that other copyrighted material. But you can go check it out on your own. So
Wicked Game.
yeah, and
It's called Wicked Game on Mars.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Okay. So let's go on here. So what is there anything else you want to share about this base? How about this? What was the name of the facility? Do you remember?
Names can be real hard for me, you know, and everybody calls, you know, this the Mars Defense Force. And the only thing I remember about that is that it wasn't called that. So it was something like that.
Do you remember the name of your officers, your fellow comrades there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some.
Can you name names?
I think that's especially like the key guy, that he's still in the military, and I wouldn't feel comfortable saying his name. So yeah.
So the guy back in the 1940s, you said 1950s, when running this base to the year 2000 at least, is also in the military here on planet Earth?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
see, there are a lot of key personnel I even remember that supposedly died, that, you know, back in the early 1900s, that are still alive in the American military. So there are some people who've been fighting this thing for a very long time.
Well, do you think maybe Nikola Tesla might still be alive, considering how brilliant he was?
Maybe.
Okay.
You think that they would let that go? You know, somebody who's that brilliant, you think they would let him go? I think Marilyn Monroe is still alive. I've had weird memories of her being locked in a room. But anyways, yeah, that's another weird, just more weirdness.
JFK Jr.
I don't know.
I know that's a lot of the QAnon boards. They're all wondering if he's going to be Trump's running mate, but I know that's yeah, that's a different subject. So let okay. So I guess we're going to go move on here since I don't really have any more questions about this facility, and so how about do you want to go into how about this? How about you tell us after, I guess, 2000, when you were decommissioned or you left your post there, did they send you back to planet Earth, or did you get sent into another location to serve more time?
I served more time. And to be honest, that's kind of like secret squirrel stuff. But I served in an elite team of people. So yeah, that's something I at this point in time I don't want to talk about. But yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, not you know, I want to do disclosure, but you know, people don't realize we're actually in a war right now. And so, you know, everybody keeps talking about like the deep stank and the ill, nuts and naughty, you know, using code words here. But all this infiltration that's going on here on Earth is the NAZI. Okay, it's the breakaway. And that's something that the pieces have not fit together. But so we are in the middle of a war right now, and I wouldn't want to disclose anything that I would think would, you know, hurt that. So,
are you suggesting that the Americans had time travel tech and
they do?
Yeah. So they've looked into the future and they know what's probably going to happen.
Well, timelines change all the time.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about.
They change all the time, and so you can get, if you want, arrogant and think you know what's going to happen, but you know, both sides have time travel tech. Both sides are changing things constantly, and so you may get, because the thing is like they have all sorts of time travel tech. They have all sorts. I just did a recording on this, so that I will be posting to my blog about this. But there are probably certain things that look like they're inevitable, but how and when things are going to occur, that changes all the time. And so I do believe that, you know, we will win the war, but when exactly is that going to happen? You know, because I actually, James, I remembered I come from a different timeline, and that's just the nature of time travel tech. But the timeline I came from, we got disclosure, I think, by this time. And
was it during the Obama administration?
It was during the Obama administration, and it was the reason we had disclosures because Trump was actually the president before Obama, and Trump did so many good things to give power back to the American military that when Obama was president, we were actually able to get Obama to malfunction, that he's actually a cyborg. That's what I remember. And that on television, we were actually able to get him to loop and say something over and over and over and basically reveal that he's a robot. So
Obama only got elected one time for one term.
I don't remember if that was first or second term. Yeah, I think it probably was first term, by the way, but I don't really remember.
Well, Andrew Basiaggio has said that he's seen Obama on Mars. How about you? Do you recall interactions with Obama? Did he ever go to that facility?
I do, but on Earth. So that's kind of weird. But yeah, it's not on Mars. At least not at this point in time. I remember stuff every day, by the way, so that might change. But
okay, and there was
he probably would be, by the way. I mean, there's no doubt. So
yeah, there was a time Trump actually did run for a president prior to, I guess it was 2015 or 2016. So going back then, really? There was another term. Does anyone in the chat know when he didn't get very far? The first time he ran for president, what year that was? If anybody can mention that. Okay, So let's go while I guess we can go ahead and just pull up this other picture of the jungle. Since is that what you like to do
I
next?
drew this. Yeah, I drew this for you because this is a memory I had of you. And so I don't actually watch a lot of other whistleblowers because I get triggered so much. But there was a period of time when I was actually trying to get triggered so that I could remember, because I was trying to basically prove myself that it wasn't real. And I started watching one of your videos, and that night I had this like massive dream about this place. And I believe that this was, see, nobody has said this before, you know, but I think the main NAZI planet is called Centurion. And I believe it's around Alpha Centauri. And I have quite a few weird memories of this place. But this was our training grounds. It's just a snapshot, you know, that main house there is actually where I lived. There were 2 telepath houses, another just like it. It was on the other side of the river and down it a little bit. But it was this jungle place, and we had all of these camps for different different assets, I guess. And so the telepaths lived in these blue houses. There was a purple camp that was remote warfare. And then there was a super soldier camp that actually was just like this courtyard. And it had these funny little, covered areas for when it was raining and stuff, that where you could avoid the rain if you were training outside. But their camp was all underground. That one main area, there's an elevator that took you underneath.
Did you ever go down underground to see what it looked like down there?
Yeah. So if you look up in the upper corner there, it's there's a path to the underground where I worked. So
this side?
I didn't on the right, upper right.
Path to underground where I worked.
Yeah. And so yeah, I put quotes, right, because I didn't get paid, you know. So but so I didn't access, because the super soldier camp was like 2 miles away, and it was jungle.
From here to here, that's 2 miles.
Yeah, from my house to the super soldiers, and there was no path between the two. They didn't actually want us socializing with the super soldiers, but if you walked it, and I did walk it because my boyfriend was over there, it was more like 4 miles. It was very like intensive. But where I worked, my access to underground was elsewhere. You know, I had to travel that path and actually cross the river, and that's where I would access. But that whole area underneath there is like ancient builder base, and it's very high tech, and they did all sorts of Ascension experiments, and I remember them experimenting on me there. And one of the strongest memories is getting me to breathe underwater. And I remember flying to, I know that sounds absolutely outrageous, but yeah, I remember them.
Was there a crocodile pit and they wanted you to levitate over it?
No, they put me in a room, and I remember like sweating, like they turned up the temperature really hot, and I pulled off all my clothes, and I was literally burning. I thought I was going to incinerate, and then all of a sudden I start flying. But no, I don't remember any crocodile pit at all. And I remember like being put in like a chamber full of water and believing that I was going to die from suffocation, and then all of a sudden being able to breathe underwater. But even then, I remember that I could not remember all of the work that I did underground. So even then, they were erasing my memory. And so there's a lot of other weird stuff.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your interactions with your boyfriend over here. Is is that what you said? You saw me?
Yeah. So I remember being an American. So I knew I was an American. And I remember having a super soldier boyfriend who's actually my husband, David, and David was on Mars and all this stuff. But that you and he, because you had a boyfriend who, I'm sorry, you had a girlfriend that was a telepath, and that you guys would walk over to where I lived and where she lived. And I just remember having lunch with you and her. And they have all this really weird communal living in the breakaway. And so, yeah.
Can you tell us what her name was? My girlfriend?
Do you really want me to say? Because I did tell you. I remember is Jessica. So and see, that's the thing.
You know, she hasn't said anything about it.
Yeah.
She'll probably say something now.
I think so. The interview, when I got triggered, it was a conversation between you and she, and that's when I had that memory that evening, that night. So.
Okay. So Jessica and you snuck out of that facility to come over to the camp.
You and David snuck out because I didn't like actually traveling. I did not like going over to the super soldier camp.
Was there a lot of vicious predators in those woods?
It was really hard hike. It was a really hard hike. Yeah. No doubt there was probably some animal in there. But I don't remember that being a real big deal. But I just there's no path and it was very thick jungle. So.
All right. I could kind of maybe see David. And by the way, I guess that's David Lotherington. The same David. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's been on my show. We were training how to do shape.
No. My husband, David.
Oh, okay. So that David. All right. So all right. In that case, all right. So we got over to the female barracks, and then what? Did they catch us? Did we get in trouble?
No, I don't remember you guys getting in trouble. I sort of do, but it was more like just don't do that, kind of a thing.
And did we follow those directions?
No.
So I guess they made the first mistake is they probably should have put the two camps maybe 20 miles apart.
Right, probably should have, yeah.
Anyway, okay. So moving on here. What else before I interrupted you with this this train of thoughts, and what were you talking about? I guess the base over there, the super soldier camp.
Yeah. So I know there's just lots of weird stuff. That the telepath, actually, the place that I lived in, it was for the younger folks, so it was actually co-ed, and the other camp was for the adults. And gosh, the river had so many fish. You could just put your line in there and a fish would catch it right away. It was crazy, really fast river. And I don't know, there's weird stuff. I remember this there was some guy who was reporting on us and watching us, and weird stuff about being able to go into a mirror and stuff. There's all sorts of crazy weird stuff with that. So it's not that exciting. I mean, because I have other memories of the planet, like with a metal Christmas tree, and I talk about that on my vlog, and Hitler's there and everything.
Well, what's the metal Christmas tree?
They have some sort of Christmas over there. I don't know really what it is. It's not Christian based. It's like pagan based. And I had the responsibility at one point to put this metal Christmas tree up on the cliff. And it was really big. I mean, it was probably like 50 feet. And I had to use this weird helicopter thing and pull it out of storage. And because the Christmas tree's metal, it had this reputation of breaking through the net. Well, for some reason, it must have been a clear day or something, because there was like this bay, and I decided to transport the tree over the water. I thought that it wasn't going to break through the net for some reason, and sure enough, as I transported it, it goes into the water. And I had this really massive memory looking for this crazy Christmas tree on the bottom of this bay, and that everybody in as part of the team was just really pissed off at me, because we were supposed to get a couple of days off and everybody had to look for this tree in the bottom of this bay.
So were you using telekinesis to levitate it over the water?
No, it was like, no, it was just a helicopter kind of thing.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay.
It would have been way cooler if it
And
was.
were you speaking German language?
No, then I was speaking English. I
Hmm.
do remember speaking German at some point. But what's weird is at some point German I think became very brittle for me, and it's like now like if I hear German, it's like fingernails on a on a chalkboard kind of a thing. Where so I think at some point they blocked that for me. And what's weird is I'm German, right? I have a lot of German heritage, and so you would think that it would be real easy for me, but now I can't even stand to listen to the language. So I know there was a point when they stopped. Um, so, so yeah, but
So this
then
was
no.
probably American facility on Centurion where they trained American super soldiers.
I they trained Americans, but we were we wore the Nazi. I'm sorry, we wore the Nazi uniform. We did,
You didn't
and
like
so
the Iron Cross and or the royal swastikas, or are we talking about the eagle? Those kind of
I don't remember the symbols.
insignias. Okay.
Yeah, but it was not an American uniform.
What about did you see any Sumerian type runes words? I said well runes, but
Like
RUNES.
in the base or just in general.
Well, on signs and yeah, because the Sumerian, yeah, the ancient super soldiers use the Sumerian language.
Um, no,
Okay, all right.
yeah,
Hmm.
maybe.
And so your, I guess your the people that were training you, they all spoke English as well.
In that stint, yeah, yeah. And actually, I mean, English is a part of the breakaway. It's a main
Yeah,
part
but
of.
it's so strange that if they're using NAZI symbology insignias, they should be speaking in German because that is the language of the SSP.
The the so I remember mostly using English in the breakaway. I do remember there were periods of time very early on where it was German, but I think the breakaway is very old, and I remember a lot of English. Well, like I was telling you before, so at this point in time, I believe that my family was part of the brain drain in the early '80s, and I think I was taken like when I was like 3 or 4 years old with my family,
And, and
and
that
in
was
those memories, I'm speaking English. So
and that was the alternative 1, 2, and 3. Where I guess the third alternative was go to Mars. Correct. The first one was to I guess it was all about to reduce global warming, and they were going to blow up the atmosphere of nukes. Um, I forgot what the second one. Somebody remember what the alternative 2 was? I
yeah.
guess it was build underground bases, and then alternative 3 was go off world. But okay, so
So it must have been so. See, the thing is I don't know how much it lines up with what's in the public knowledge base right now, but I just know that my family was part of the breakaway. And I have all sorts of memories, like I was saying, like of my brothers and my parents and my grandparents over there. So
okay, so Chad mentioned Sumerian is written cuneiform, and ruins are different. So thank you, Chad, for that differentiation. Either way, I don't think it would make much difference because neither of us remember that. Okay, so I had a question from the audience member about, oh gosh, I just lost it. Okay, here it is. Do you remember them doing anything like similar to we see in the movie Wolverine, where they put adamantium, I think it was, in the bones where the appendages could come out? I know, for instance, weapons could sometimes pop out of arms of super soldiers, but do you recall anything like that?
so I have one memory where as part of American team uncovering archival footage that the NAZI had made, where they were basically turning human beings into cyborgs. And I remember this footage, and it's in black and white, where they're putting like this helmet on this man's head, and they had, like how the Borg had like this weird like kind of eye thing. They had this weird something over his eye. And I do recall that like one of the first things that they did was to try and make, of course, the super soldier. And that's kind of as far as that goes, as like weapons coming out of the body. I would have to probe into that.
So the eyepiece was infrared, but it was also interdimensional. It could see into other dimensions and other beings outside our vision of sight.
See, a lot of the early like NAZI stuff, it's kind of like steampunk, you know, that like kind of style. And so like this stuff, it wasn't sophisticated. It was like really bulky metal, you know what I'm saying? It's like just, and I remember they actually put this helmet on this guy's head and it scraped his skin and he was screaming. It's horrible. So.
Do you remember if James Casbolt or Max Spears was at this facility? Any other super soldiers?
I haven't watched any of their stuff, so I don't know.
Okay. Do you remember?
Like I said, I avoid a lot of this stuff because I get so much on my own. So.
Well, I remember being on a jungle world and Max was there, Casbolt, and there was a group of about 12 of us. We were all lined up and they were getting ready to train us on something. So, and I also remember jumping out of, we've had this discussion earlier, jumping out of a plane with a parachute on into a jungle world. That was a nighttime. So, but you said that the light, that was during the daytime, that the light is very bright.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's very bright. Yeah.
For anybody out there who was there, maybe that would trigger your memories. But next question, Thomas would like to know, do you remember hearing anyone speaking Spanish with a Madrid or Barcelona dialect or accent?
That's awfully specific. I do remember like a Hispanic people on Mars. And I remember like one of the shop on the base, because like I said, you know, they had slaves that manned the American base. That's something that really bothered me. Cutting hair, but there was this funny little shop where we could get fruit, and he was a Hispanic man. And I remember the Illnuts and Naughty have a real big establishment on Mars, and they of course are all speaking Spanish. So.
All right, maybe Thomas, you want to elaborate why you asked that question, but okay, so we're seeing a lot of comments about Casbolt in here. I don't know where he is. I heard he was released, but I'm going to basically say what everyone else is saying, that he's not allowed to come in public. So question to Teah, can you do you have any information on the diamond spiders?
Diamond.
Okay, yeah. So that I think they were on Saturn, if I'm not mistaken, the rings of Saturn, but they probably didn't have them on Mars, at least.
Do you have a picture of them or something?
I don't have a picture. Everything.
A drawing.
No, I don't. But we did discuss it with Peter the Insider, the diamond spiders, and apparently they're very docile and they're quite friendly, and they're also massive in size. And they're not.
They're also massive. What?
Massive in size, like 120 feet wide, and they do not necessarily eat. They're not predatory, so I have no idea what if they eat minerals, if they got diamonds excruting out of their bodies.
Yeah.
So, all right. Next question. I'm just going to the chat here. So we give me a moment here. Well, all right. I don't see too many questions about. Okay, so you mentioned that HITLER was also on this jungle world. You want to talk a little bit about that individual?
I have a few memories of him. So, yeah, so he was a head honcho at one point still, and we had to put this metal Christmas tree up in his honor or something like that. And I do remember him visiting and wanting to kill him right then and there, but I knew that they could actually resurrect him, so it didn't matter. So yeah, I mean, they have crazy tech, and there's just so many different angles and dimensions to a lot of this stuff. But yeah, I remember being with some military guy when I was a little girl, at his place in Argentina. And I was triggered, that memory, I was triggered when I was really young, when I was getting, in like school class, learning about World War II. But so that's a weird thing. And I believe I also remember him on Titan a couple of times. So, and that Titan was a major an AZI installation.
Yeah, we're getting a comment here. What was Titan like?
It just red rock, and of course it had a bubble as well. And I just remember Saturn in the sky, and I remember some of the slave quarters that were built into the cliff. Lots of portals to get around. So they had like just kind of arches, and that in general, like usually yeah. But of course, all of it's underground. They use a lot of
Well, is the atmosphere
a lot of
breathable?
no. So I remember they find a lot of ancient builder stuff, and a lot of it is still functional, or they're able to get it functioning again. And so, so in this area that we were, of course we could go outside, but it was because they have some sort of shield, so.
All right. And so I had an individual that contacted me that remote viewed the whereabouts of the HITLER and recalled seeing him on like as in wearing an ambassador type uniform, and he's definitely on some kind of mothership. So if he's out there, that's probably where he is now. Okay. So I don't know. Let me ask chat. Did that answer your question about Titan, or did you have anything else more specific you wanted to know? Okay, so let's see
I
here.
remember on Titan, like we did a lot of like arts training, and so that's really weird stuff. But I remember like learning ballet. I remember playing my violin. I remember visiting a luthier who was a slave, but he was my favorite. And I would travel a great distance for him to tune up my violin. So I remember also training in the martial arts there, and that the empath intuitives were kind of revered. And so I remember like just actually enjoying my friends up there, and playing lots of music and stuff like that. But that's most of the stuff that I have on Titan. Then of course I have some bunch of weird stuff, and like weird moons, and I don't know where that was. But like the ancient builder stuff, it's really, I mean, I just call it high tech. I mean, you can't imagine, and so I have a lot of like memories of being in these different spaces, but I don't know where they were. So yeah.
All right. What was the Titan facility an American facility as well?
No, that's all NAZI.
And were they all speaking German pretty much there?
I don't believe so. I don't, yeah.
Do you remember them using any kind of paper or currency, any kind of monetary system?
Not necessarily on Titan, but yeah, they have money in the breakaway. And what I do remember about like how their military works is like when you get a job, it's like a full package. So they give you a place to live. I mean, they have you controlled, like just everything is controlled. I even remember them giving men women. And like I said, like they do arranged marriages there, but in this particular case, it wasn't like an arranged marriage. It was just, a woman to use. But that you get elevated very high based on your position, but then they give you sort of like a kind of a commissary or a little extra kind of a deal, so that you can spend money on your own thing. But yeah, there is money in the breakaway. I have lots of memories in the breakaway real estate, places where I lived. How I even remember like some trying to find a home for like, you know, $1,000 or something, and I had to rent a room, and because a normal place was around $3,000 to $4,000 a month. Weird stuff like that. So, but yeah, there's money over there. I do remember that I think each planet has its own currency. But what's weird is I remember the dollar over there, which is really weird.
Yeah,
So
because
I don't.
they thought planet Earth was destroyed.
It's the relationship that the Earth to this breakaway it's very strange. You know, and it's very much like us, where we don't know about them. They don't really know about us, but the upper echelon does. And they have some weird system going on where we're all really linked to each other and tied to each other. So I don't know. It's just it's strange. It's very strange.
And do you think the upper echelon are monitoring our internet and watching
Oh
our
yeah. Are you
disclosure?
kidding? Yeah, they're doing everything. Oh
Or
yeah.
do you think they appreciate the work that we're doing here, or do you think they're aggravated about it, upset about it, annoyed?
Like you mean with disclosure or?
Yeah, the disclosures that you're
Oh,
making.
they don't want disclosure. No, they want to keep us in the gutter. They want to keep us slaves. So the more that we know about the true nature of our reality and how much the corporations are involved and how much we're being controlled through the government and all that, no, they don't want any of this to be happening.
All
So
right. Okay, so going back here, some more questions. Um, Someone wants to know, do you recall ever being in a holodeck, or do they have holodeck technology like in Star Trek, or you being a hologram theater?
yes, I know they have that tech. Yeah. So mhm.
Right.
Nothing outright like, you know, fantastical or anything like that. I think
Okay.
a lot of that stuff, to be honest, is kind of old hat when you're up there. More than anything, I remember being tortured, and I remember like just totally horrific things. And that's actually everything that started coming through really early on, like horrible, horrible things.
So the
So,
torture, is that what happens when you start getting your memories back and they need to brainwash you to get rid of them? Or are we talking about Montauk stuff or what?
um, kind of all of it. You know, I mean, a lot of the doll stuff actually came up early on, but being tortured presently, being tortured as a child. So there was a lot, and I've seen a lot of people hurt, aliens and humans alike. I've seen a lot, and so a lot of that it was like the most emotional stuff came up first. That's actually really how I see it. But I do think that it was probably some sort of programming, some sort of fail safe to get me to not probe, just to, you know, front loaded. Somehow it was front loaded, and it was just like, here you go. You want to remember? Here you go. So yeah.
All right. Could you describe how the, as far, I mean, you don't necessarily have to get too
Mm.
graphic on how they tortured you, but like, what are some of the things that they did?
Oh boy. I mean, sexual stuff. I like one of my alters, Kaya. I believe that she was created by watching people get murdered. Um, so animals and people. Um, but electroshock, uh, I mean, I think they used everything on me, to be honest, anything and everything. I remember them putting me on like a regen table, like a table that will regenerate your body, and like using like what do they use for cattle when they brand them? You know, like like a scalding hot thing, piece of metal, and using it to burn my body as my body's simultaneously being regenerated to maximize the pain. Remember all sorts of weird stuff like that, but that them putting that in my mouth, I think that's so that I wouldn't talk. So I mean, yeah. To
Do you
be
have
honest,
health?
a lot of that stuff I try and let go, you
Do
know.
you have
So
health complications from the trauma?
well, I think a lot of my emotional crap that I mentioned was all like part of that. Um, but I mean, I take so many herbs, and I try and eat real clean and exercise. And granted, I have problems, but I don't have any diagnosed diseases. And I'm actively trying to make myself healthy. So
All
I
right.
work very hard at it, actually. So.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen because I was hoping someone from the chat would answer this question, but since I went ahead and looked it up, Donald Trump 2000 presidential campaign. So was this the alternate reality where he got elected in 2000?
Oh, perhaps.
So we didn't get a
I
bit
don't have a
of
year connected with that memory. I don't have a year connected with it, but it was around the same time frame. So it would make sense if he got elected in 2000 and Obama was still 2008.
Yeah, because Bush Jr. He was a god. Yeah, he wasn't part of the scene. So, all right. And do you have any other memories from that particular timeline? You could tell us about, like maybe what Trump did differently.
I don't. I do remember we had disclosure and all of this stuff came out about the tech and abuse and the cabal and stuff like that. But sorry, I said the C word there. um, but in that the age extension technology was used, and I remember like after about 200 years, we started seeing the timeline become, I don't know, messed with. History started
That's what
changing
happened.
again.
So that's what happened. They used time travel technology to avert this timeline. So we didn't get
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's the NAZIs are doing it because they
Oh yeah. Oh
they
yes.
wanted to
Yes.
extend their time in the secret space program. I mean, their
Yes.
control. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. They
You
want to keep
think
us in chains.
you think they would get really bad karma about this, and higher dimensional beings would intervene? I mean, where are all the light beings above us? Why aren't they doing anything? Well, maybe they are.
Well, I mean, I have some thoughts on that.
Mhm.
I do know that like free will is like beyond respected, and the NAZI considered to be part of who we are, and so everything they're doing is considered to be a creation aspect of it, and that's why it's enabled, because in the end, as human beings, we're responsible for our own creation, and they are part of who we are. And so that is something that actually is quote unquote respected. But I also do have memories of talking with other future human beings from future timelines who are here to improve things. And I have had weird memories of the original timeline being like super bad, like 1984 bad. So the fact that we're not there, I think, is evidence of if you want to call it divine help or divine intervention. But we're in this weird place where we need to, like everybody who's totally oblivious to all this crap needs to wake up and start participating, in trying to make a better future and saying no to these jerks who are doing all this stuff.
Well,
So.
can you comment about I know you say you don't want to talk about ongoing operations, but can you say anything what you foresee happening in the future?
Yeah, it's well, okay, so I don't know, James, I have a whole lot of thoughts on this kind of thing, but I think that trying to predict the future is a really dangerous thing, just because I think it makes people apathetic. I think that if you really want to do something, you need to get involved and create the future that you want. And so, and that's what I think humanity needs to be doing on the whole right now. But to say if that something is going to happen or isn't going to happen, it's just that part of the nature of reality. I do remember that there are multiple, timelines coexisting, and so it's kind of one of these things where if something can happen, it will happen. The question is does it stick? Does it take? And so I remember things changing in the timeline after we had done something that we like that the CABAL had tried to do something really negative, and we had gone and fixed it, and it had regressed. It wasn't taken. Weird stuff like that. So,
All right.
so
Well,
we are getting help. I firmly believe that, at least. And I have memories and evidence of that. But the thing is that we need to do it. We need to do the work. We need to pull ourselves out of this. So.
All right. Well, you know what? Let me check. I might have one more question here on my list. So someone was asking about the difference between Dark Fleet and Solar Warden. This is basically SSP 101 stuff. Do you want to go into that?
Yeah. So to be clear, like I said, like I don't listen to a lot of whistleblowers, and I'm probably going to totally embarrass myself here, but I don't remember Solar Warden. And
Okay.
I know, like you're saying, it's SSP 101. I remember like an American, force and all of this stuff, but I don't remember that specific term. I don't.
Well, yeah. Okay. So just in brief,
Yeah.
without spending a lot of time, Solar Warden was created by the, I'll say created, more like it was more like a joint venture with German technology, roughly around 55, when Eisenhower had to make a deal with the Germans to get a hold of the technology in exchange for allowing them to abduct 50,000 Americans per year for the secret space program. So they created their own group called Solar Warden, and that's all tied into the CABAL on this planet. And they police. There's like two different regions. Like there's the asteroid belt. I think Solar Warden has from the asteroid belt to the sun, and outside is Radiant Guardian. Unless I got them inversed, but they were split up into two different groups, but they're basically work anyway. So the Americans still have this idea where they want to go out and finish off the Germans because they still want to finish World War II, and the Germans, they just want to go off and do their own thing and not be bothered.
I think that's that sounds like at least it's congruent with what I remember. Like I said, like certain details, and I have very different details, obviously, about like dates and stuff like that. But the NAZI created this breakaway civilization. But what I remember is, and I have a memory that I do disclose on my vlog, where I was there when the NAZI encountered the first aliens, I believe, okay, where they agreed to basically become a part of what's like called the Syndicate. And that they made a deal with these aliens to manipulate humanity so that they can propel themselves back up to being the ancient builder race that they want to be, with more power and all this stuff. Because of how free will works, the aliens who wanted us to be in chains had to get a segment of humanity to manipulate us. So that's what I remember. And so people think that the NAZI are not involved at all on Earth any longer, but they are. They're very much involved. And I have a lot of memories regarding that. And so this idea that they're not here anymore, that's a total farce. At least that's my testimony. So
Thomas is commenting, Solar Warden is the equivalent of the Coast Guard, where Dark Fleet is the Navy. So Thomas, we're gonna have you bring him on here next week so you can elaborate more on that, because I like to learn more as well, as I'm sure the audience members. Okay, so moving on to the next. Let's see if there's any other questions that are good questions anyway. Someone says, we will never finish off the Nazis. Oh shoot, the NAZIs in space. They would just run away and they will have tech to start over anywhere. And somebody was actually commenting, how far out are they? They passed Pluto. What do you think, Teah? Are they past Pluto?
Oh yeah, they're way past Pluto.
We were talking about a Centurion earlier. So, and Thomas has actually commented that he went back in time up to 400 years into the past and settled all around the galactic rim, colonies everywhere. So some of these colonies are very developed and advanced today.
Yeah, because it's like, when did they do this, right? So you would have to look at it from their perspective, but you can't look at things in a sequential order. So who knows? Maybe they went from Titan and then went into, colonizing the solar system, and then they went to Alpha Centauri. Who knows what the order is? But that would make sense to me.
Okay, so we're good. Holly says, thank you so much for your guest, and thank you, Holly, for joining us, and thank you, Teah, for sharing so much as well. Someone here wants to go into the Unimatrix. Maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to keep my show more SSP related. Okay, well, what is there anything else you want to share? Because I want to give you a little bit. Oh, okay. I think we covered everything. I did show all the pictures, right?
Yeah, I
No,
think you
okay.
did.
How about your book? What's that going to be about? Is that about this and a little bit more, or?
Well, it's I don't know. I think when people read it, it probably won't be what they expect. But it is fictional stories based on my memories, and it's a part of a book series. It's a collection of short stories where I'm disclosing, at least in this book, how the NAZI are manipulating people in the presently, and so at least how I was manipulated. And so it'll be interesting. It's the book series is called Space NAZI Among Us, and this is the book one, the Invisible Enemy Elephant. So it is available for pre-order, and I am actively working on it right now, but it'll be available in about 300 days. I'm hoping I can actually bring that date up, but for sure, it will be ready
Okay.
by then.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So you also got this other website.
Oh yeah, that's my business. Yeah.
There you are. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you can do some sessions, or you sell some herbs.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with Chinese herbal medicine, but it's traditional the way we do it, very traditional. So
Okay.
we work,
All sorts of.
we work with the traditional herbal formulas. You know, some of them are thousands of years old, and work doing pattern discernment. If you know anything about Chinese medicine, so we do offer free consults where we'll look at your tongue for free and talk about what.
So if you look at your tongue, you need to come into the shop. Well, what if you didn't live near near you?
You can do it remote. Yeah, we have an online process. Yeah, you can send your picture, tongue picture.
Would you consider yourself a medical intuitive as well?
To a certain extent, yeah, sure, through Chinese medicine, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, there's a few more websites. I'm going to pull these up as well. This is your blog here.
Oh, you're gonna pull that up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
there, if you're musical mastery. Did you play the violin on Mars?
yeah, actually I did.
Okay.
Actually, I learned to play just about every instrument. But a lot of this stuff here is my, like, the musings of a madwoman. Yes. So especially when I was remembering, a lot of this creative stuff started coming out of me. And like, I mean, I don't know if anybody caught what I said and recognized the significance of it, but we wrote music on Mars that was stolen. And it was actually an American military operation to try and do disclosure through our music. Okay. Is anybody picking up on this here? So, so just think about that for a little bit. Okay. But we were trying to get the word out even back then. Are you musical, James?
Well, I played the trumpet when I was a kid.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't too terribly good at it, but then again, I didn't practice. I think it was more my parents were trying to impose it onto me, and
oh, really?
I was trying to rebel by not really practicing. But yeah,
Right.
I would love to learn how to play the piano, but one day, well, I figure we'll have the instant education machines, and I'll just spend 15 minutes in it and know how to play the piano. I don't know if it'll work that easily, but didn't you talk a little bit about how they implant the memories with the TRIP-C technology? And so it doesn't always work. You can't just always upload some, say, like a PhD of a doctorate, doctor's medical background into somebody who doesn't really want to learn that.
So I remember, like, universities and the breakaway, and of course they use this in the military as well, but they can take like a memory matrix, if you want to call it, or a skill set, beam that into your head. And actually, I remember this being done to me when I was like on Typhon. That's another weird thing, but it was like a surgical procedure, and I remember like it was going to take like a week, like this whole process. And then after you have the knowledge in your mind, you do have to work with it so that, because you have to bond with it, because it's not really your information. And so a good portion of the time in their universities is that you have to, like for 3 or 4 months, you actually have to use the knowledge and develop your own bond with it and kind of make it yours. And so that's just like a kind of a weird side note, but yeah, but they do that kind of stuff, like for like the sex doll stuff and all of that stuff. So
they can like insert memories of like the sex altar and turn you into
like I remember like Sailor Moon is a sex altar, and that that when you're watching like the beginning of that cartoon, when they're activating the third eye and they're doing this light, and actually they show that. I was looking at the Romantics, the movie, the song, I hear the secrets that you keep, right? That song. They show this young girl who's like half asleep, and they actually show this bright light on her forehead. And that's actually them, you know, transforming you. So, but I remember weird crap like that happening.
So it's not just the altar; they can transform your body to have into whatever form they want.
Well, yeah, that's the DNA manipulation.
And they did that to you too?
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember being like a fish person. I have some weird stuff. Kind of looks like Saturn, doesn't it?
Can they? Yeah, I'm gonna get out of this. But can they also change their sex, gender?
Yeah. Yes, they can.
Did they ever do that to you?
I have had memories of being a man. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I know you mentioned that I think you said 8% of personnel were female, at least in your experience. Is that throughout the SSP or just in the basic?
That was on Mars with the American stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, and in that case, our bodies were not being changed there. I do remember super soldiers being changed into like half breeds, like half human, half lizard. And I have several memories of that. Yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. So.
I was going to comment that half of those women were basically men in women's bodies. Yeah, so well, hopefully they can balance all that the masculine feminine energy, as maybe in the future we'll actually see a civilization on Mars that's more positive and
hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Thomas wants me to mention Tanya. So yeah, they converted him at one point. So anyhow, super soldier. Okay, what are you guys doing to recall memories? You wanna comment about that? And then maybe we can wrap it up.
What I'm doing? I do all sorts of things. And I mean, I can trigger myself. Like I was saying, I can trigger a lot myself with music, and but I'll just be triggered like throughout the day. And honestly, I think of what's happening with me is because I continue to heal, right? And the more I heal, the more their structures that they built inside me break down. And so I am constantly doing everything I can to break that crap down. And a lot of it is like through like psychological blocks, you know. So I do a lot of internal work, try and be a really balanced, healthy person. I meditate a lot, exercise, eat healthy. I try and cook everything at home. I take a lot of herbs. I think the herbs have been a big part of that. And obviously that's what I do. but even like doing a lot of artistic things, you know, if I do play music or if I do draw, I get a lot of memory recall when I write the stories, because I think part of it is that you go into a type of meditative state, and I put myself in these places and I'm trying to describe them to somebody, so I'm going through them really slowly, and I'm asking myself different questions and different details, and so then more will really come back. So I mean, so all of it. I'm doing all of that stuff.
That's a really good idea. So put yourself into a deep meditative state, and maybe before you do it, write down some questions first, so that way you don't have to use, I guess, your alpha, frequent brainwave frequencies, so you can keep that
Mm-hmm.
theta, was it theta alpha brainwave pattern of a deep
Mm-hmm.
meditative state, and then so when you're asking yourself your questions, does that cause yourself to go out of trance, or you're able? Okay.
I I can go into a deep meditative state and still be aware,
Hmm.
which I think is why I can do what I can do.
Right.
And so I mean, I can be fully aware. If they take me really deep, you know, then they would have to have somebody ask me questions. But like if I'm doing an exercise, right, where I'm going through the process of trying to write what I'm remembering, and saying, okay, so like now I am, you know, I'm describing the room, because I'm trying to put myself, like as I'm writing the story, I'm trying to get somebody to see through my eyes, essentially. So I'm trying to describe the place, I'm trying to describe the feelings, I'm trying to describe what's happening. And when I started writing my novel, which was supposed to be from the time that I was taken to Mars forward, I was really surprised, like how many details of the base were coming through. Some of See, there's like all sorts of weird stuff, like why did I make some of the decisions that I made? And so some of those questions were answered in that process. You know, remembering the barber, the slave barber, and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you just think about like, okay, James, you know, you want to put somebody into your memory of what you remember, you know, and you go through the processes of like, okay, well, what did the uniform look like, or what did the room look like, or what were you feeling, and you start trying to just put that down on paper, suddenly, you know, a lot will come, a lot comes, at least for me. So.
Yeah, thank you, Tia. That's good advice. Someone wants to know, can a person be hypnotized not to be brainwashed or hypnotized?
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
Prob
maybe.
I don't think
The thing
so.
is, the thing about this stuff, right, is you're just going into like altered states, right? And altered states, you know, they say like even if you close your eyes, and once I was watching some documentary, you go into a different state than you do when you have your eyes open. And so, like, you know, how often are you practicing going into altered states, you know? And when I do my meditation, I have the sequence where I'm going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And every time you do that, you know, you're going more into an altered state of being, more inside, more internal, you know. And so the more you practice doing that, the more you can put yourself in the hypnotic like state and start communicating with your subconscious mind and start pulling things out of it. And I wish I meditated more, but I meditate, you know, a decent amount. And I'm, you know, doing all sorts of other things aside from remembering. I'm trying to heal, you know, so I'm doing all sorts of weird meditations, trying to resolve some of my emotions. Because a lot of this stuff's been really hard. I mean, I've remembered them doing horrible things to people, and so, you know, how am I supposed to deal with that? You know, if I go try and talk to a psychologist, they're just gonna tell me I'm nuts. So
Yeah, it's not fair. Certainly, I did an interview with Cobra last week, and he said that uh, us in the SSP won't get recognized, or for or help for until after disclosure takes place. So we're stuck here for the time being, and we're gonna make the best deal as we can as possible for what we got. Um, uh, are you okay if I ask one more question?
yeah.
All right. What were the universities like on Mars? The Academy, the Martian Academy. I think Penny Bradley's talked about it, and so has William. He's on my.
Martian Academy, like for the Martian people.
I think it had to do with the Germans. It was a training ground for, I guess, the officers. Uh-oh. Did you freeze up? Are you still there?
Yeah, you just broke up for me. You said training ground for
Yeah. Well,
officers?
yeah, for officers. I could try to find um, Super Tech DSF. But do you recall ever being in an academy at all or any?
I remember getting like weird trainings, like one training was how to put technology in my body that looked like kind of normal everyday tech, like hearing aids and like fake teeth, and even like, not to get too personal, but like feminine products and stuff like that, that was actually hidden technology. I remember weird stuff like that. I don't know if I could call it an academy. I mean, I'm sure it was, you know, but yeah, I mean, it's not like,
Well,
I can't recall a Martian academy, you know what I'm saying?
well, what Super Tech DSF described is that during his time in this training center, they would scan his body once a week, take a photo of his aura, and then after he was released from his service, this tour of duty after 20 years, they took all these pictures and they reversed it and reversed his age, and of course they wiped his memories and sent him back in time. So I was just wondering if maybe you recall anything like that. Did they do anything like that to you?
Um, I remember like a lot of this tech, you know, we talk about it like as maybe being one thing, you know, like age regression. I remember like they have lots of different ways they can do this stuff, you know, including I know that with Americans, I think it was something like a human growth hormone, like a really high grade human growth hormone that I believe actually either preserved your age or regressed you. But I remember the NAZI having something that I would go in this weird chamber and them actually regressing me that way. And there was some sort of chemical that would infuse with my body as they use some sort of electromagnetic, I don't know. And I remember like they can actually access your DNA and like rewind it, which I know sounds really weird, but it's almost like, and this is something I describe in my vlog, but it's almost like our DNA is sort of like a videotape. And at one point you know, we're on a particular frame, and that they have the ability to put you at a specific moment in the videotape. That's how they can actually, I know it sounds so dumb, but that's what I remember actually, and I believe that was on Mars. But what but the auras and stuff like that, I mean, I don't know, you know, like remember like the Centurion with the camp and stuff like that. The reason why they had those colors is because it was supposedly the color of your soul, which is really weird. And that the color of your soul has something to do with the type of intelligence that you are. So, I mean, that's just some more weirdness, you know. I don't know what to do with that. But
Right. Yeah. So this was Super Tech DSF. If you want to read his story, it's on my website, and that's Thomas's artwork. But yeah. So going down here, it says here that he was introduced into the Deep Space Training Academy, and I think that's on Mars. Even though he started off at Lunar Operations Command, was that also a similar track to you? Did you go to LOC first before you were sent to Mars?
I believe so, but like the moon is like super blocked for me, and I've tried.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this person was training as the space in the deep space fleet. So, but in the Lunar Operations Center to Mars Operations Center, I don't know if any of these terms mean anything to you,
I
but
mean, granted, I've heard them because I have, you know, like I said, I was trying to disprove this stuff, so I kind of dove into some of it. But like I said, like names especially are very hard. I've remembered some slang, you know, remembered like the antibiotics. I think they were called superbiotics. You know, stuff like that. Remember when they take your memory and they use the crystal because it's the short term. I remember that being called blinking, and there were all these terms like pinging and, you know, stuff like that. They all rhymed. And
okay. Well, but how about the term deep space fleet? Is that something that they used in your service in the SSP?
Not that I've remembered at this point. I'll meditate. I'll think about that. Deep space
Okay.
fleet,
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah. Well, just shout at me. Do you want to end it now, or did you want to
Oh,
keep going?
yeah.
A few more questions, because I know we're well past 2 hours, and I want to be
Oh,
respectful to you.
it's almost 9:30.
Okay. Well,
I
let's
don't
go
have
ahead.
anything planned for tonight, and I'm a
Yeah.
little bit of a night owl. I could go longer, you know.
Okay. Okay. So a few more questions. Thomas commented that he thinks you're an intelligent asset, and I certainly would agree with that assertion. Somebody would like to know about time on Saturn. Do you have a lot of memories on Saturn? Or
I have weird, strange memories of being on planets and seeing Saturn in the sky, and I have several, not just on Titan, but on other planets or moons, obviously. And so a lot of them when I'm in my youth, actually. And I don't know how much value that stuff has. You know, I mean, one I remember like Saturn took up half the sky. And I remember this really cool celestial event where there were these planets just coming in sequential order, like for the space of about a half hour. You could watch it in the sky, and I remember seeing all these kind of cool planets in the sky just rolling through, going from high to low. So and that was a really strange living environment. Once again, a communal living environment where we live in these really big houses and share kitchens, and you kind of, you know, you rent a room. They do that a lot there because I think real estate is really expensive. But another time, being like microwaved when I was like 5, like going through this weird conveyor belt like microwave thing where that they use to actually erase your memory. I do believe that they use microwaves to do that too. And so, I mean, you know, like I said, like there's a lot of weird snippets like that where it's just like I don't know how valuable that stuff is, but you know, nothing super exciting.
Well,
You know,
why don't you tell us about the time when you were debriefed and they sent you back? Do you remember that the end of your service and say, "Oh, sorry, your Earth is still around, and I'm going to give you your memories back," or I guess take them away?
Yeah, I don't. I actually don't have memories of that.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Well, in that case, we're gonna call it a night. So thank you, Teah, for
Yeah, my pleasure.
coming on here. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Audience members, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. And I'm going to hold on. So share my screen again. Be sure to also visit. Oh yeah, Super Soldier Talk. You can go check out this. Be sure to check that out. And then also, and there, if you visit my website, and I know this thing is going to get reset if I don't do this right. Make sure. Okay. Yeah, if you visit my website, there's a donation button. You feel free to donate. I really appreciate it. Because I'm working on a new introduction video for this, and it's gonna cost a lot of money. But anyway, the point is that it will, yeah, it'll get used put good to a good purpose. Also, be sure to check out my other website, Neological Tech. I only have 2 copies of my book left. I'll try to get some more in, but it'll be a while. So if you want one, you probably should order it tonight. The first 2 people anyway, and I do have some more digital downloads. I just got some new one. But anyway, check that out. That also supports the work I do. And also be sure to visit Teah's website. And I'll put all this stuff in the content description in just a bit. So there you have it, everybody. Thank you all for visiting. Yeah, joining us here tonight, and we'll see you later. See you, everybody. Bye-bye.